Hey, okay, well, welcome to Illuminating Rounds 17. We're still here. Martin is still with us. There was some concern. Now, you were looking particularly rough at the end of the episode last time. Then you got worse.
I got very, very poorly. I thought I was on the mend, but I had the worst of that illness still to come.
And
yeah.
I guess viewers who are indisposed to a weak disposition should look away now. But this is exactly what Martin looked like a day after that scenario. Okay, that's looking pretty good. So what was wrong, Martin?
So it looks more dramatic than it is. It was simply sinusitis. I thought, why on earth has my face gone completely red and puffed up? And am I dying? And the doctor was absolutely sure. So it was very clear it was just sinusitis, and I had to have some antibiotics. But I tell you what, it's not easy getting antibiotics in this current climate. You know, everywhere's shut. You can't talk to doctors very easily. There's skeleton crew working at the chemists. It was grim. But as soon as I got the antibiotics, fixed up pretty quick, really. But you know what? After that game, I slept for 2 days.
That's what beating me in a turn and a half does to you.
All I did was dream about getting antibiotics.
Well, I'm glad you're on the mend now. You look a lot healthier, a lot better. So I know there was a lot of
on the mend. Yeah. Tire a little bit easily, but 100% on the mend. Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, that's really good. Well, glad you're back, and you were suggesting this week's game, which is good to hear, because I was worried that you were still a bit under the weather. So it's good to hear. I haven't forced you. You're not here under duress or anything. So we have to shout out to our patrons. We have a new Patreon, Chris Anthony. So thank you for joining up and signing up with the Patreon. And you've knocked us over the edge of our 30 patrons. So we are now going to do a giveaway, which is going to be, we'll do that in a little bit. It's going to be a copy of either the Winter Offensive Pack number 11 or number 9. The winner can choose between those two. This has come thanks to Second Chance Games, who don't know they're sponsoring this episode yet, but they're kind of sponsoring it because they accidentally sent me a couple of copies extra. And I have asked them if they wanted it back, and they haven't replied yet. So I'm putting it down to them sponsoring the episode, and if they want the money, we'll send it over to them. But otherwise, with their sponsoring, we're going to say thank you in advance for their gratitude, or their accident that they're happy to do with. So we're going to do that, and Martin, you're going to be dice roller, and I'll be adjudicator this time.
Yeah.
We'll do that in a little while. But I guess first of all, what have you up to this week?
So I've spent quite a bit of the week very, very poorly, of course. But we're all set up to get me and Martin all set up now, ready to get back to our Pegasus Bridge campaign. We've done purchases, we've set up, we're all ready to go. So it'll be I can never remember if it's campaign game day. I can't remember if it's the day 2 or day 3, but it's the one where the forces come on from the beach. They've come up from the beach, and the American and the British have got to get a number of them over the bridge in order not to lose at this point. I think they will safely get them across the bridge. But so that's where we are. And so I'm looking forward to getting that started again, actually. Okay. I've also playing the Great Nick. Wonderful guy lives near us. I've been playing him by email. Now, we would normally perhaps get together every 4 months or 6 months, sometimes a little bit more frequently, and play. He's a very busy guy. It's very difficult to get, so we'll nail him down sometimes to a day. We play face to face quite frequently, but of course, current situation, we've had to go play by email, and I'm very much enjoying that. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later on.
Yep. That's right. And I guess I want to shout out to, as always, Rob McGinley, who we're going to go through our email game at some point, I think when we're face to face again. But if anybody's looking for an email game, Rob, I can hook you up with Rob. Rob is not only just a super nice guy to talk to and to play a game with, but he's also very, very regular with his ASL turns, and certainly more regular than I am. And I'm going to apologise again, Rob, because I owe you turns. I have noticed I play a lot more frequently and with more passion when I'm winning than when I'm losing. and the most recent game, I feel like I'm getting a bit of a bashing, and my regularities of sending logs over and not as much as they should be. So I apologise, Rob. I will send you a log file over, and just stop beating me quite so badly. You'll get them through quicker. But if anyone's looking for a pbem opponent, so this is playing with Vassal, and Martin, you're going to talk about this a little bit later on as well. But if you are interested in doing that, certainly get in touch, and we can put you in touch with Rob, who is a great opponent. And Rob loves doing things like going through a whole pack. So pick a whole pack of scenarios and just play through them one by one, and you really get a good feel for the pack. And it's something I'm doing a little bit more of with Stuart. So this week, Stuart and I played a couple of games. Counter-Attack at the Muse, I think, from the Players Pack, the Kansas City guys, which is now Encircled Productions. And that was the game I mentioned last week, the 3 anti-tank guns against the 10 French R36, I think. And it's an interesting little situation. It's almost like a mini game rather than a scenario of ASL. But what's really nice about it is you can set it up and play it in probably an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and then flip the sides, try again, see how it goes. And it's really good, I think, in terms of like a training scenario for someone who wants to see, how do you get the most out of your anti-tank guns? For example, are you going to put them in woods where they're going to struggle to turn their covered arc, and are you going to take intensifier shots and things like that? So it's a nice little scenario for that, and it's good practice for things like platoon movement, and whether or not you're going to be focusing on just getting these tanks off, or should you be putting some covering fire down and things like that. So really nice little scenario. Stuart and I had a good time with that one. We're playing the pack all the way through as we can, and so we're on number 3 now of that pack, so enjoying that. The other thing I did, sorry.
I think playing packs all the way through is nearly always really rewards you, because when you look through a pack, you pick and choose, but you cherry pick and you pick the things that you perhaps always pick. You pick the ones that aren't too much trouble because you haven't got to find an overlay or whatever. You haven't got to read up on some rules. But making yourself play them all means you discover those sort of like gems that you never would have played. I think it's a good idea to do that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think one of the things that we are absolutely guilty of is playing very similar scenarios, isn't it? We kind of look for scenarios with maybe 8 to 12 squads, maybe 2 or 3 tanks, maybe a couple of anti-tank guns, and maybe it's 6 turns, and that's kind of like our sweet spot. And when you go out of that comfort zone, and I remember the games we've played, the Gavin's Gamble, things like that, which we wouldn't necessarily have played if we weren't trying to go through for some strange situations. And those are often the most memorable situations and scenarios. One of the other ones I played this week was thanks to MMP's the COVID Vassal tournament that Brian Yaus's set up. So shout out to him for a great effort of trying to organise that over Facebook, which is probably the hardest medium to organise a tournament because you're trying to track all the communications going on there. I played a guy called Greg Smith, who was an absolutely wonderful guy. He told me he was rusty and he'd need kind of walking through the rules, and he was absolutely perfect. He was he knew his stuff, he knew what was going on, and we had a really nice time. And we played the whole scenario. We played third RTR in the rain, which I've now played 4 times, and every time I can't. And I think Martin, you and I have played this. I don't remember about it at all, and then every time I remember setting it up, I remember the charge across the green field, across the ploughed fields against the wall. I don't know if you remember this bit, but there's a defending wall and you have to charge against the wall. And I always remember that now. That's the kind of like the iconic moment of third RCR. Great scenario, and I'm sure most of you have now played it because it's such a popular scenario. And to see so many people play that in the tournament and talk about how good a scenario it is, it's almost exactly 50-50 balanced. So if you haven't played third RTR in the rain, absolutely give it a go. I lost that scenario but had a great time and played it, and so it's really nice. And so good luck to Greg in the next round, and enjoy the Vassal tournament there whilst it lasts. It's really good. So for this tutorial in the scenario archive, I'm going to show you how to seek and respond to a request for the game to play on the archive. So what first thing we do is we make sure we're logged in first of all, so double check you are logged in, and then navigate to the scenario that you'd like to play. So for example, in this case, fighting withdrawal. So here's fighting withdrawal, and on the scenario page, if you scroll down to the looking to play, and you can add a comment here. So I'm just going to put demonstration purposes only. But this might be, for example, you want to play by mail, or you might want to play by vassal only, or maybe you're looking for a live opponent in a particular area for a particular tournament, and you click seek game. So at this point here, you can see that this is the request is available here, and if you're logged in and it's not you, you can actually respond to this by requesting a match based here. The other part you can see where all games are wanted is on the games wanted page here, and you can see that I'm here waiting for a game. So again, if you're not me, because obviously you can't respond to your own request, you might have an option here to seek the game. So in this point, what happens if you request a game with this person here, they will get an email, and that will suggest that someone is looking to play, and this person can then accept or reject the request on the scenario page itself. So once you've added your request, you'll see here that someone has offered you a game, and you can either accept or reject. And again, you'll get that email with their email address in there. So by requesting an email, by requesting a game, you will actually send the person the email, and hopefully you can get in touch. If you reject the offer, this option will become back available for other people, but it's only available whilst there is nobody responding to a request. So you must reject the request if you want other people to be able to offer you a game. The other thing to mention is this list gets cleared out now, so for every 3 months the games are removed. So if your game hasn't been requested, if you haven't got an opponent within 3 months, this is taken off. That's just to stop old stale requests hanging around for too long. If you do manage to get a game matched, it will appear here for the next 3 months, and you can see whether or not people take on the requests or not. Okay, I hope that's fairly straightforward, and I hope you enjoy the feature. So what are we going to do today? We're going to talk about our top 5 nationalities. So this is nationalities we enjoy playing, rather than necessarily the best ones in ASL or the strongest.
Enjoy playing, yeah. I think enjoy playing.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan. We've had a little conversation about this in the past. I'm a big fan of having them very, very different. So I know there's a little bit of a trend at the moment to introduce new squad types to the ASL nationalities. And I think we had a conversation before where I kind of talked about how I prefer it where we've got poor troops for certain nationalities, arguably Italian and maybe the French, and better quality troops, maybe the Finnish, for other nationalities, because it just gives a different flavour. And I think if certainly if the trend continues where we see every force have the equivalent of a 658 or something like that, we kind of get effectively just colours. It's just reds against blues or greens against yellows or whatever. And I like the idea of the Italian troops being so poor in represented in ASL, obviously, but the fact that the scenario is still balanced, because you're giving something back to those to that side. And I appreciate that that it's not representative necessarily of the whole of the force, and of course there are going to be better troops in ASL, but I do like the idea that there's some very subtle differences, very pronounced differences across each nationality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so shall we do our top 5 then in reverse order? So do you want to go first there, Martin?
So I had number 5. I had the Partisans.
Okay, that's a good choice.
Very different. Not an obvious choice, I suppose. I like how they're kind of different. I like how, for example, they're stealthy, an advantage that you perhaps wouldn't expect them to get. Often in scenarios that involve the Partisans, there are missiles which allow them to move quickly through buildings or through forests to kind of represent their sort of great sort of local knowledge. So I think that whole kind of like sneakiness that you particularly have with the Partisans, I think is really interesting. And of course, you the strong weaknesses as well. They can't form multi-hex fire groups. You can't get those sort of that sort of big punch kind of like in your face sort of combat power that you can get with more regular forces. But that's kind of the point, isn't it? That's the whole thing. In fact, we're going to be playing a game a little bit later on featuring. Oh no, we're not.
We were going to, yeah.
partisan or not. No.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I discovered I didn't have board 68, so we can't play what we were going to play. Do you think maybe this is the kind of like the last bastion of the new module that maybe MMP could produce, like a partisan one, given that partisans are still in Russian colours, and it feels like they're the missing nationality colour that perhaps could be implemented, maybe with a neutral colour instead of having them as Russians.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I suppose one of the difficulties is probably are there enough combats taking place across Europe which are large enough to kind of justify the producing. I mean, there may be. I don't know. To justify having them as their own sort of module, and of course they don't have things like. Don't have the same sort of interesting vehicles. Perhaps I mean you could probably have a few ragtag World War One things or a lorry or whatever, but they've not got the production capacity behind that a great power has. So I suppose perhaps they feel a little bit lacking in interest for a full module.
Yeah, I wonder if there are any partisan scenarios that feature a tank as well that they've kind of commandeered somehow. That would be an interesting one to take a look at. I'll have to take a look at the scenario archive.
Yeah, such things may very well have happened, but it would be, you really have to go out of your way to find things like that, wouldn't you? To find something that was a little bit different. Having said that, there was an awful lot of partisan type combat going on in sort of the Balkans, I think, and in southern Europe. But whether I don't know what scale the average kind of like firefight is. I don't really know.
Yeah. Well, I guess if anybody knows of either an incident like that or a scenario in fact like that, then let us know. We'll definitely try to play it. That's the other thing. All right, good stuff. So my number 5 is actually higher up on your list, so I'm not going to talk about my number 5. So we get to jump straight to number 4 for you.
For me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have the Russians.
Okay, and me too.
You have the Russians at the same place?
Yeah. So let's talk about Russians. Russians are great fun, aren't they? In terms of you have the numbers, you have the great T-34 tanks usually, so you usually get a bunch of them. The Commissar rule, human waves. I don't do enough human waves. I don't know about you, but
I think human waves are difficult to find an ideal opportunity to do them. There's a couple of scenarios which have clearly been written which allow you, specifically to set up to do a human wave. But it's quite unusual, isn't it, to find the right situation to pull it off. They're actually quite expensive because you have to have at least 2 units on average, don't you, in the wave. Yeah. So every shot is going to hit 2 squads, which kind of feels expensive, and so setting them up is more complex. But I think rather like the Banzai, when you do get a human wave, it's exciting. It's ASL at its best,
There's no saying about how, as a child, I was led to believe that quicksand would be a lot bigger problem in my life than it turned out to be. Every film that seemed to have quicksand going on, and you could walk into it at any point. And it's a little bit like if you start off with Guards counterattack and you have a great human wave, and you read all about the Russians and having human waves. There are not enough scenarios, I think, that that I certainly take that into account and should be pushing a bit harder. So I think I've got to look for some more human wave potentials. That's my aim to do.
I think that's a good idea. The Russians always have plenty, don't they? But they're sort of amazingly brittle sometimes, aren't they? Their first line squads go straight to conscript. Even their elite units often go straight to conscript, don't they? And things like that. They're conscript. But it's there's something else. I think if you've been playing ASL for a while, when you're playing the Russians, but perhaps this is true of the Germans as well, you're kind of at home. Do you know what I mean? You're not playing something esoteric or strange. Something feels snug about you've got your foxholes, you've got your Russian commissar, and you've got your guy defending the perimeter, and you're the Russians. That's it feels good.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like old classic ASL. It's a nice feeling. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's like a hug from the box, isn't it? It's quite nice. All right, my number 3 is higher up on your list. So let's talk about your number 3.
My number 3 is higher up on your list.
Okay, all right. So let's go straight to number 2 then. So my number 2 is the Germans. So I don't think you had this on your list at all. So the Germans, just for the whole ability of the toolbox that you get with the Germans. So you're generally going to get a good medium machine gun. You're going to get lightweight machine guns. You're going to get generally Panzerfaust if you're a late war. You're going to get generally decent tanks. They're not going to be that outclassed. You generally have good leadership. There's nothing that really goes wrong with the Germans. They are the default, effectively. That's the one that everybody that's the bar that everybody has to set themselves against. And you never feel like you are in trouble with the German force. I always feel like you've always generally got the tools. Your breakdowns aren't going to be terrible. If you've got OBA, it's not going to have shockingly poor red numbers in your deck. So I always kind of feel a bit safe with the Germans in the playing of ASL, just because you generally are as vanilla perhaps as you like, but with those extra little finesses. That's my kind of feel for that.
The first line squads are probably unique in that they go down to a second line squad, which isn't that much worse.
Right.
Which is quite a nice feature of the Germans. First line squads also have, albeit only on a 1, but they do have smoke grenades.
Yeah.
And very interestingly, Germans generally have spraying fire, which I sometimes forget to use, and there are more opportunities to use that than I kind of like give it credit. So their first line squad, I think, is an interesting, on the face of it, quite a dull looking squad, but actually quite an interesting squad.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. All right, so you're number 1.
Right. Okay. So what about my number 2?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sorry, you're number 2. Yeah, you can go for your number 2.
Americans.
Okay, talk to me about those.
Okay, right. Okay, so similar to some of the things you were just saying about the Germans, and what I enjoy about the Americans, they generally come with good leadership. They tend to be lots of them. They tend to have lots of medium machine guns and things like that to make those 666 squads into 10-6-6 squads. They have the coolest vehicles, without any doubt, especially some of those half tracks. Really sort of like some cool vehicles, and I quite like that they have this 6 morale. I quite like that because it means you've got a very, very powerful base squad, but you really can't. You can't afford to let anybody shoot at it. You've got to move them very, very carefully and thoughtfully. But if you can build up fire groups with the Americans, they're absolutely unstoppable, aren't they? With those, and of course they've got advancing fire and they've got spraying fire. So even as advancing fire, they're worth 4 firepower each, aren't they? If you can get a few of those into a fire group, they got a very, very good advancing fire shot back. And of course they got 2 for their smoke exponent, haven't they? Or was it 3?
I think some of them 3. And you got your 6 range as well. Those 666s are pretty devastating. So it's nice in that you can keep the enemy at arm's length when you're defending. Certainly, that's quite a nice feature. And like you say, the tanks are good. The 50 cal is a fantastic weapon. It's I think it's a really nice set. The only thing I think that stops me about the Americans is that it tends to be later war, and I kind of feel like sometimes the early war stuff is a little bit more fun in terms of shells bouncing off each other. Sometimes it's a little bit more fun, but I think absolutely, I think they're a nice nationality to play. Yeah,
they're particularly good in cities where their morale is perhaps not quite such a problem, but they've got the firepower to batter their opponents down.
Right.
Yeah, they're an interesting one.
And that 3-2 into close combat as well is always nice as well, because suddenly your morale disadvantage goes out the window, and your squad firepower is really the key thing there. Yeah. Okay. All right. So number 1. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, go on then.
That was you, was it, or me?
I thought you were going to go first.
Okay, let me go first. All right, so number 1 for me is the British. I love to be patriotic. I love to enjoy seeing the British do well at my hands, because that's a double win. I don't like to beat the British. It feels a bit bad. Love the no cowering rule. I think the no cowering rule for the British is so overpowered for British. I mean, we don't mind that. It's a nice differentiator of those guys between most of the other nationalities. But they are your stalwarts of the World War II in terms of you know what you're going to get from them. They've got a decent morale. They've got decent leadership. Let down a little bit by the machine guns. I think that's always disappointing. You don't see very many medium machine guns for the British floating around, and fewer heavy machine guns. But in general, their tanks are weird and wacky. Usually, there's always a vehicle note that you've got to be reading about those guys. But yeah, absolutely, I just love the no cower and the idea that they are they're fighting on the home team.
Yeah, no. So of course I'm British as well. So obviously I've got a little bit more interest perhaps in some of the kind of sort of historical situations that are depicted when the British are there. I do think it's quite interesting. This, how historical is this no cowering thing? I mean, I am, as far as I know, 100% British, and I cower if someone hits the board knocker too loud. So I don't know whether it's true or not. But and the other thing is, of course, that it isn't that set does not just represent the British, does it? It represents the Commonwealth. In fact, it represents the Commonwealth, not the British. You've got a variety of nationalities in there, and that's kind of easy to get from.
Definitely. So yeah, for example, we was playing Showdown in Syria the other day, and that the Indian troops were represented there by the British counters, and obviously the Commonwealth, as you say, and today's scenario as well. We were in Crete with the Australians, and those guys are going to be well represented as well. So you're absolutely right. I think it's just always hard for me to see anything other than a British counter as the tan brown. But you had them as number 3, so you like them as well. That's the good thing.
No, I did absolutely. I enjoyed playing them. So my number 1 was the Japanese.
Yep. My number 3. Yep, absolutely. Go for it.
I thought it was a pretty obvious one to have down somewhere because they're so different, aren't they? The most kind of scenarios I played with the most absolute chaos and mayhem involve Japanese one way or another. First thing is, you don't know where the hell they are because half of them are hit, aren't they? And they've got all kinds of little dudes jumping out to try and attack the tanks and stuff like that. That kind of chaos. The fact that when they're coming at you, they don't stop. They just keep on going. You can casualty reduce them, you can strike them, but you can't break them unless you hit. I mean, you've got to have like 1, 2, 3. They've got to fail 3 breaks, haven't they? Is that right?
Yeah.
Before they would actually break. Interesting that pins work with them though, doesn't it? So you can sometimes stop them. So they do have that kind of zombie feel to them. You've got like thousands of zombies coming at you. You blast holes in them, but they keep coming. But I think I most enjoyed the Japanese on the defence. Again, it's that kind of like sneakiness. You've got so many sort of tools to be sneaky. It's a lot of fun. They also have this thing where they potentially commit hara-kiri. Have you ever had a Japanese squad commit hara-kiri?
No, I don't. Yeah, I'd love to see a scenario where that use of that is actually kind of.
We played a scenario where that was a feature.
Was it?
Yeah, no, I can't remember the details now, but it mentioned it in the SSR, and I think it must have been to do with. I can't remember now. And we definitely played something with them.
Okay. Yeah. I guess it's to reduce the CVP somehow, but rather than being captured. But yeah, it's a challenging country. A lot of people don't play PTO, and there's a lot of ASL players that just they're just ETO and some desert, and they're perceived as a little bit difficult to handle. But I think once you jump into the PTO terrain and you get a handle on the kind of the differences and the bamboo and things like this, we mentioned it before in our PTO game that we've played. The PTO is probably the pinnacle of ASL fun, isn't it, in terms of just craziness that happens, and you can play with a bit more abandon and a bit more you're rewarded for recklessness, whereas in many scenarios you are going to get punished for that down to shot that you're going to take jumping across an open ground hex. But the Japanese, and exactly as you say, the pin results, I've never been more disappointed with pin results of the Japanese than any other nationality. I think it's usually you're quite relieved to get a pin result. You've got away with it. But the Japanese, they're furious about this. So, excellent. Okay, good stuff. Well, I guess I think the point there I want to make as well is that I don't dislike playing any nationality. I mean, I think the things like the Finnish are great fun. Played the scenario the other week with the Finnish, and they're great fun as well. I mean, there's nothing that I particularly dislike. I don't dislike playing the Italians, but I think it's just in terms of if I've got to look at what nationalities I actually enjoy playing the most, I think that's what they are for me.
Yeah, it's all down to the scenario, isn't it? You can enjoy playing any of the nationalities, but yeah, you develop little warm favourites over the years, wrong as it is.
It's like children. Okay, so let's talk about our giveaway. So we'll switch over to our giveaway. So let's just get prepared for that. So hang on a second. All right, so here comes our giveaway. So Martin's lined up the 6 dice, blue, white, red, green, white, red, with the round, is that the round red dice at the end there, and the square?
This is rounded and wooden.
Oh, okay, right.
Bigger than the normal MMP size dice.
All right, okay. So we've got in this bracket, we've got Andrew, Benjamin, Brian, Chris, Damien, and David Garvin ready to go. So if you can roll the dice there, Martin, and we're going to see who wins this bracket, and then the bracket winners will go against each other.
And we're looking for lowest.
Yeah, lowest numbers. Yeah.
Okay. So we have 1 and 4 at the moment. So let's roll again.
So this is Andrew and Chris.
Yeah. So they're still neck and neck. So it is actually number 1.
Okay. So this is Andrew is in the next round. Okay. So in Heat 2. We've got David Marrakesh, we've got Eric, Indy, Jason, Jeff, and Jim Neary. So away we go again, Martin.
I don't roll them up though.
Yeah.
Line them up. We only have a 1-1, so that would be number 3rd position.
3rd position?
Yeah.
You sure it's 3rd? Sure it wasn't 4th? I don't know.
No, because so it's okay. So it would be the second, but it'd be 2nd position. Sorry,
2nd position. Okay, all right. So because I don't want the guys to come after us here for messing this up. All right, so that's Eric top. Okay, so Eric is in the Heat as well.
Yeah.
So number 3, we have Ken Knott, Kevin Duval, Kevin Lester, ML, and Mark Jenner. Roll away, Martin.
One, two. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
1, 2, 3, 4. Position number 5.
Position number 5. Okay, so that is ML. So ML is in. ML is in. Okay, so next bracket we've got Marty, Mikhail, Nicole, Paco, Preston, and Randy. Roll.
Right, got quite a few 3s here, so I'll re-roll these.
Yep.
And this is position number 3.
Position number 3. So that is got Marty. So that's Nicole. Okay. So Nicole's my partner. She's a patron. She loves it. It'll be awkward if she wins this, so we'll keep going. Okay, and so the next set of guys is going to be Reed, Rigmore, Malston, Teddy, Tom, another Tom R. So Tom M, and then Tom R, and then Zeke. So last one, Martin, for the brackets.
So this is position number 3.
Position number 3, and that is Teddy. So, okay. So, this time, we've got 5, only need 5 dice for this one now, Martin. So we have Chris, Eric, ML, Nicole, and Teddy.
I'm going to put the order up again.
Yeah. So Chris is the blue.
Okay.
White is Eric. Number 3 is ML, that's the green. 4, which is the other white dice, is Nicole, and 5 is Teddy. Okay. Roll on, Martin.
We have a winner.
Okay.
So that would be position number 2.
So this is Eric. So
Eric.
We'll double check that, make sure that's all correct, but I'm sure that is. So Eric, get in touch. You've won a copy of either the bonus pack number 9 or number 11, and we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. Thank you, Martin. Okay, so obviously thanks again to the Patreons, and if you want to be part of that, I guess when we get to 35 Patreons, we'll do another draw, and we'll send over another pack or a bonus pack or something of people's requests. So congratulations again, Eric, and now let's talk about the next thing, which is going to be play by mail or different ways of playing ASL. So Martin, where you go?
Okay, so well, of course, in the current climate, the current way things are at the moment, of course, play by email is a very, very, worthy idea for people who want to play a bit of ASL and can't get face to face with people. So it's a good alternative. I used to play quite a bit of play by email, and initially I didn't like it because it takes a little bit of getting used to, and you need to kind of like work on your kind of like how your notification and how you communicate your moves with the person that you're playing with. But it can be done really quite efficiently, and with a good opponent, sending back your log files quite quickly, you can actually rattle through again quite quickly. So certainly something I've enjoyed over the years.
And I think one of the advantages as well is you can play many games and many opponents at the same time. And you can, if you forge relationships. I mean, like Rob, he's a guy in Australia. I'm never going to meet Rob in my life. Suddenly, 10 years ago or so, he came over to the UK, and because we played 3 or 4 of the scenarios at the time from one of the hero packs, we're there having a beer in the pub, and it's amazing. You've got something to talk about there. You've got something. So it's a nice way to keep in touch with people. It's a nice way to make new friends. There are a lot of people out there that don't get the time that you and I have to be able to play, for example, right now, and even when all of this is over, family commitments and everything like that gets in the way. For email, it only takes 10 minutes, doesn't it, to do a move and to get into a scenario, and you can play scenarios that you never thought that you would be able to play because you are increasing your opponents. A lot of people talk about how they don't have enough opponents around where they live, or they're 2 or 3 hours drive away from people. We've always been fairly lucky, haven't we, that we've been quite close to each other, relatively speaking. But if you're 3 or 4 hours away, then I guess email is a really good way of making new opponents and getting new things going. I should point out that there's an option on the Scenario Archive to request matches, so you can seek games there and you can take a look. And one of the things I'm going to show is all about that, actually. So the clip that I'm going to show after this little clip here will be how you create matches and how you look for them and how you respond to them. So that's what I'm going to do to show you. But by all means, use that as a way to pick scenarios that you like to play against people. And then Martin, we talked a little bit about the play by phone approach that effectively we're doing right now with 2 copies of the boards and a live opponent, but just over Skype or something. Did you have any more thoughts about that since we played last time?
Yeah, so we're going to do that again today. It isn't my preference to play in this way. There's a little bit of fiddliness in getting webcams and things set up, and it's all very well that me and you are happy not to see each other's dice rolls, but then you've got to read them out and or set webcams up so they're viewable. The big hurdle for me is that when I set your counters up, I don't know which of them are dummies and which of them are real, of course. So I have to set everything up as concealment counters and then sort of correct it as it goes along. I just find that a little bit sort of fussy, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
Of course,
in a way, in a way, I was going to say it's just like how Vassal does it. In a way, they all turn into complete concealment counters, and
yeah, but you set them up there. I know exactly what's there. It just feels a bit fussy having to fiddle around with counters, taking concealment counters out, and putting the real count, the real order back in. And you deployed an extra squad than I thought. I'm going to go and find a half squad and all that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah, I think the advantage of it though is that you're kind of in your own little environment, and I've got like you've got a cup of tea here, we're sat here with a board, and it's almost like I've got a perfect single player game that happens to have like a human AI behind it. There's going to be a nice. I'm kind of almost feel like I'm playing this on my own, but then there's this kind of we've got this interactivity where I've got this. It's not a computer program. I play them on the board. It's it's a better system than Sassel, I think, in terms of how you are responding to the moves and everything. I don't know. For me, I think this is a great way of playing. I think it's quite nice because you can be quite comfy. You can set yourself up in your little environment, and a cup of tea here, and my dice here, and my counters, and my rule book, and but it's I can understand it's not for everybody.
I just think that Vassal does all of that for you, and I think that you can still have a cup of tea. It's it seems to me that and you don't have to put counters away. There's some benefits to Vassal, of course, isn't there? And I appreciate people don't like the the computer element. There are people who work with computers all day, don't want to come home and be on a computer. I can understand. So it's horses for courses. My preference, if I have to play distantly, is to play with Vassal, I think.
Yeah, that's fair.
I want to pick your brains on play by email about a couple of things. Do you think, are there any hurdles to people that want to play by email? are there any difficulties associated with it?
So one thing is, you've got to be fairly comfortable with your opponent. So it is easy to cheat. That's, I think, the elephant in the room is that actually it's quite difficult to, if you want to cheat in a game of ASL, by email is the easiest way to do that. So, if I'm playing face to face and I want to cheat you, then I've got to probably work quite hard at it, and it's going to be quite awkward if when you catch me. If I want to cheat via email, I'm just going to redo that move over and over again until I'm happy with what happened. And what happened was, funny enough, I was playing against Rob, where I needed a very low number to survive or to make it to kill, and I was so nervous because my dice were running hot that I actually recorded it on my phone, and I said to I typed it and said, look, I'm recording this, and I kind of kept the recording and just made sure that if it was going to have a double one, that at least I would have proof, because I didn't want him to think, because that's the worst thing about it. I think is if I do get lucky, it was lucky. I think you know me well enough. I'm not going to cheat anybody. I don't care enough about that kind of stuff. But I don't like the idea that in the back of someone's mind there might be the idea that, well, did you really just roll that? If it's a last minute, like I'd hate a play by mail game to come to the last turn and me need snake eyes and roll snake eyes and be like, oh, there you go, I've won. That feels like, whereas face to face, that's an amazing thing that we're all going to talk about. As a play by email game, I'm probably going to re-roll that until I lose, because that's the problem with it. That you can't guarantee, someone isn't just going to roll until they're happy with it. That's the biggest issue, I think. There's some practical things like getting used to, making morale checks for your opponent, things like that. Unconcealing opponents' troops, and there is some awkwardness. So I think things like I've had in the past, not recently with Rob, but in the past where I've played through and say, for example, what the way you tend to do it is you say, okay, we'll keep going until one of my guys runs into residual or one of my tanks blows up or something like that. Right. And what may have happened is that I may have done a whole load of movement, and then in defensive fire, for example, my opponent has broken a squad, and I may have not said, just carry on. I just don't worry about carry on, but just carry on. And what happens is sometimes you go on and maybe you move a tank afterwards, and the tank has a great bounding fire shot and kills something, and then your opponent sends it back too soon. Yeah, and that's awkward, because then do I redo that again? Do I, and so having those things really sort of focused in and making sure you know what you're both doing can lead to not frustration. Frustration is far too strong a word, but can lead to some kind of like moments where you think, oh, okay, this would have been easier any other way. But yes,
I think the right thing to do in that situation is that it never happened, even though you had that great bounding fire shot that you wanted. It never happened. Yeah. And I guess if you kind of get a little bit more experience, you perhaps a little bit more careful that you don't go too far ahead in that, for those sorts of things to start happening.
Right.
But yeah, that is one of the difficulties with it.
The other thing is, things like letting your opponent unconceal your stacks has to be just a trustworthy thing, because otherwise it does slow the game down quite a lot. If every time they have to unconceal something, you need to send it back and then let them unconceal it, and for example, backwards and forwards. So ultimately, your concealment counters are worth as much as your trust in your opponent, and that's a little bit difficult. But there are a lot of times the Vassal is better than face to face. So things like how it handles the hip units, how it handles things like the secret notes and things like that is quite nice. But having hip units on the board where you can see it, and I know a lot of people that they prepare setups, certainly for tournaments, with a Vassal board printout. So they've got it completely there with their board side locations and things like that all set up, and that's actually a really nice advantage to be able to do things like that on it. So I think being able to have these kind of tools in your armory, knowing, okay, this is how I play by mail, this is how I can play by phone, this is how I can, how I should conduct myself face to face. These are all good things to be able to pick up, and the more you play, the more you kind of do that kind of stuff. So do you think you're going to be playing other people other than Nick? Are you looking for other opponents, or is this just Nick to start with?
I think just Nick to start with. I mean, really, me and Nick were just having a chat about getting a game together, and of course we're just not able to do that at the moment with the lockdown. So that's the reason that I'm doing it. I suppose one other disadvantage is sorting out rules mistakes can be messy when you play by email. I think you do need to take the time to do it properly, make sure it's clean, and you make it clear what you're doing and how you're doing. And of course, because you haven't got somebody in front of you, you can check the rules as well. You can look things up. Because as soon as you've got something like half a log file back which went wrong that needs to be corrected in some sort of a way, that's that can make the whole log file process suddenly become a little bit messy. Yeah. But the advantage of it is that you do get that chance. We talked about this last week. You do get that chance to really think about your moves every single step. Every time they moves that tank, you can think about whether you're going to fire at it or wait for it to get closer. What else could it do? Is he planning to turn? Is he planning to stop? Is he planning to play smoke? Yeah. And I think that's one of the really, really good features about playing by email. I might very well play somebody else possibly in a little bit of time. Yeah. Okay.
Excellent. Okay. Good. Well, I'm sure there's plenty of people that'd like to play you. So, you could offer it up to the guys on the channel at some point as well. All right. So let's talk about today's scenario. So we are in Greece. In Crete. Sorry. And we're going to be playing a scenario from Break Contact. So Break Contact is a pack that came out in about 2006, I think. It's actually one of the packs available on the Scenario Archive, so you can buy this for $10 on the archive. It's a great little pack. We've played all the scenarios from this. This is one of the very few packs that you and I played all the way through. We had a good time, didn't we? You have fond memories of this, I think, and I do too. So generally these are all quite small scenarios, aren't they? Quite single-sided boards, maybe two boards, featuring the Australians in combat mostly. Nice little short scenarios for an afternoon play, really. Do you remember very much about them at all?
No, just that they were all very, very small. They all have a bit of a twist. They're all sort of a little bit unusual. I remember we wrote up our thoughts on each one on Game Squad, I think. Mm-hmm. So if people are interested in looking that up, they can certainly go and do it. No, I remember. I think there's 6 altogether in the pack. I remember enjoying working our way through them.
I think 7 in the pack. I think 7. But yeah, 7. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, they're all. I don't think there's any tanks or anything. I think it's very infantry heavy.
I think there's one about mud, isn't there? There's one with there's some vehicles trying to move through thick mud in a jungle.
You're right. Yeah, with the bulldozers. I think was it bulldozers?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah.
It being very hard work.
Exactly. That's kind of like along the lines of these are scenarios that we wouldn't necessarily pick just to play but then suddenly you're doing the bulldozer roles, which we've never looked at before or since probably. But yeah, it's things like that are quite fun. So I'm the defending Germans in this one. So I'm going to talk about my setup in a second, and then we'll hear Martin's setup, and then we're going to start to play. Anything else, Martin, on this one before we go?
I think let's just get on with the game.
All right, okay, so here we go. Here's my setup. So it's 42nd Street from the Rake Contact Pack. As you can see, I'm the Germans here, defending with 4.5 squads. I've got 4 4.67s and 2 4.68s, with the 248 who's manning the mortar down in X10. The 2 light machine guns, one in X9 and the other in Y6, who with the 8-1 leader, and their job is really to try and keep the mortar that Martin will be bringing on with his 8.5 squads off the top of that hill in DD2, which is going to be a problem for my guys. The objectives of the scenario is to try to remain adjacent, good order squads to remain adjacent to the road that runs from Y1 down to Y10. So it's a little bit difficult because the Australians can actually go berserk following a normal task check, and they can actually generate a whole bunch of berserk squads by any squad that's adjacent to the squad that takes the normal task check in the first place. And it's important to realise that any squad on the Australian side can take that normal task check, including, I believe, broken squads as well. The SSR says that any Australian multi-man counter in any state other than melee. So it's a good way also to get the guys to rally as well. So we've got the only real advantage we've got is the open ground, but I do have I didn't want to spread the force out. I thought I'd concentrate the fire to try and help the berserk squads that are going to be running. So to help the defending squads. So concentrate the fire in the southern half of the map, and let's hope we can have enough firepower to stop the Australian berserk squads running against us. We lose instantly if we have no good order squads, so it's worth noting that if Martin gets lucky with a few shots and jumping into the berserk status into close combat, then we are going to lose instantly. So we've really got to keep the Australians away from the Germans as long as we can, and hopefully keep the mortar away from us as well. So it's Crete 1941, 4.5 turns. Let's see what Martin does.
Okay, so here's the Australian setup for 42nd Street, and basically I've got to get right into the face of this German force here defending, and I've got to push all of them away from the road. And interestingly, I win immediately that that none of his force is in good order, and bearing in mind that units in melee are not in good order, if everything was in melee, Dave would lose immediately. I think that probably is presumably the end of the turn. No, it's just immediately. So at any point that everything is melee or broken or in any other way not good order and adjacent to that road, I would win. Having said that, there's a fair bit of open ground between where I am and where he is, so I've got to think about how to cross that. It's a very short scenario, only 4.5 turns. I think I've got to be quite aggressive and potentially take perhaps a few chances. So this unit right up at the top, that's the mortar. Double time him so I can get him onto the top of the hill, the DD2 hill, which has good lines of sight to many of, if not all, many of the woods hexes that he's in. Of course, the mortar being particularly good against the woods hexes, and even hit right the way out to X10. So that'd be hopefully useful up there. What also might be useful to stop him from moving around if he tries to sort of reposition after turn 1, for example. The next group down, that's the negative one. Leader with the machine guns. The whole point really is to see how far forward I can get those in reasonable defensive terrain, ideally concealed. I can imagine losing their concealment. Further down in opposite GG6 and GG10, got half squads in both of those hexes. They're going to push forward very aggressively. The whole point will be to draw some fire and make it easier for the rest of the units to kind of move forward. Also, just to kind of test him out, really. Test out the defensives, test out Dave's mood. Is he trigger happy? Does he want to hold fire? See what's going to happen. And then these two stacks, GG7, BG8 sort of area, those two stacks can amount to 5 squads and 2 8-0 leaders. Just going to try and push them as far forward as we can, ideally at least to DD7, DD8 on turn 1, so we can start to put some fire on these forward positions. I guess end of turn 1, want to be in DD7, DD8, up on the hill, the fire group down to CC5, BB5 sort of area, and perhaps enter turn 2, take the wood AA7 to AA8, and then giving us sort of turn 3, 4, and 5 for a bit of last game craziness, rushing around and killing. The whole point really here is, I think, that you've got this interesting sort of bayonet charge type rule before the bayonet charge rule existed, which means that the Australians very, very easy conditions that allow them to go berserk. So and adjacent units may go berserk as well. So there's a sort of quite a strong chance if the Australians can certainly use that to kind of cause a little bit of mayhem really, and just get them absolutely charging, increasing their morale, so they can just charge at the enemy, draw fire, all that kind of thing. Right, that's all I have to say.
Okay, all right. So that was a fairly eventful turn. We had some good advances from the Australians.
Yeah, I think I was quite lucky. I took a few chances. I wanted to try to I wanted to take a few chances and try to get sort of as far forward in your face as possible. But I certainly ended up taking quite a lot of morale checks. Only one of which I really failed, which was interesting. The half squads didn't do very well, did they? The half squad scam. One of those broke. The other was we got a K result, didn't he? So he's out of play. Yep. But when I moved back dangerously, that didn't work out too badly.
Yeah, you were okay, weren't you? You were okay. So you've got one broken guy in CC5, you've got one in GG7. And we've got a bit of a battle with the mortars now. Yours on the hill and mine down at the bottom corner. So all nicely poised really for a turn 2.
And plan B is to smoke your stack in Y6. That's okay. Because they got smoke up to a 7 with the British mortar. So
okay, nice.
We're going to give that a go.
All right then. Okay. Well, good luck.
You too.
All right. Let's see you in turn 2.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So end of turn 2.
Yes. Yeah.
Things are hotting up nicely.
It's quite fun, isn't it? Very small scenario, so you're kind of straight into the action right from the beginning.
Yeah, we used to talk about these called a popcorn type scenario where it was almost nothing really too heavy to think about, but it's quite a nice puzzly scenario. Your guys are going berserk at almost on a whim. They can kind of just jump into berserk and jump into guys. You've got a bit of a challenge this turn because your berserk guys have to move in a stack.
There's a stack together. I hadn't that through. I was quite happy for however many to go berserk and to pile in and win that close combat. Of course, there was never a close combat because your guys broke and routed away. But I thought that's fine.
Yeah.
But I hadn't thought far enough ahead. I am hoping to smoke Y8.
Yeah.
Which is life a lot easier for those berserkers.
Yeah.
Do that, but that's in the hands of the gods. I think I'll get that smoke on a 7 or less.
Yeah.
Anything higher, and they got to face the full brunt.
Yes, there's a big difference, isn't it, between a 16 down 2 and a 16 up 2, up 3, I think, is it? So it's interesting. You've got so we both got a hero out of it. You generated a hero in AA7. I generated one in Y6. That's the beauty of not having your opponents see your dice rolls. These heroes pop up out of nowhere. So I've got a broken guy at the back. You've got a broken guy at the back. Mortars are still firing at each other. You've got guys coming up in the street, ready to go into Y6.
Yeah.
It's all all nicely poised. You've still got 3 turns to get stuck in.
Yeah.
Big roll for smoke.
Combat by the end of this turn, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right then. Okay, so let's see how those. You've got 2.5 squads in AA8. Let's see how they're going to get on. Okay, so that's turn 3 done.
All kinds of mayhem.
Absolutely. So the melee in Y6, I guess we should talk about. I got a bit lucky on the ambush. Ambushed you, killed a half squad. Did I get? I think a whole squad.
You got a squad.
A whole squad in there. And
then and a hero.
That's
Fanatic
right.
And a hero.
That's right. And then you casualty reduced and just wounded the hero.
Yeah.
And then on the next round of melee in there, I missed, and then you casualty reduced my squad. So in that melee now in Y6, there's a half squad with a light machine gun for me, a hero for me, and an 8-1 leader. And you've got the full squad, 458 and a 8-0. So it's kind of swung back to your way again in there.
Yeah.
In Y8, you wiped me out, I think, in there.
Yeah, hand. I lost a half squad.
That's right.
I declared hand to hand there, and obviously because they were berserk, there was no ambush, but I just went straight for it. I just thought, well, let's get the game going. Yeah. I've got to say that mortar's been really useful at smoking you because it did smoke Y8.
That's right, wasn't it? That was what we left. The cliffhanger was we left it with whether you were going to get smoke on that, and you did.
Got in without any difficulty. I'd underestimated with your hero and stuff just how difficult it was to approach that Y8 building. That was quite difficult. But I thought I'd done enough when I got in with a hero, a leader and 2 squads. I thought I'd be all right. But that's all very much hanging in the balance.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, Karen.
Well, I was going to say, then my guys in X8 just dashed the whole way around back up the hill, bypassing W8 all the way around the back of the hill, and got themselves into X3.
That's a full squad. It's very difficult for me to do anything about that. So we're going to have to see. All I've got to do is get them in close combat, though.
That's right.
But yeah, difficult to see how I'm going to do that.
Yeah. So it's still in the balance. I think you've got a good chance here because of that. That victory condition is fairly easy to achieve in terms of if you can do it. Luckily, the melee is holding you up there. Still got 2 turns to go. All right. So let's see turn 4.
Yeah.
Okay, Martin. So we're at the end of turn 4. There's not a lot of Germans left, is there?
No. I think. Do you think I diced you there in that last little turn?
I think I diced myself. I don't think you diced me. I just. Yeah. I needed to win a couple of close combats, didn't I? And I just. Yeah. There's not one that I won. And
at the same time, I kind of needed to win pretty much all of them as well. It's, I did, but
if you did, if you'd have failed any of them, that's as good as a win at the moment for me there, almost, because you've got some guys left. I mean, it's not like but I do have to get lucky now. The last guy is just going to stay healthy. So all to play for.
It's all on this last full squad you've got.
Full squad and leader. Yeah. In a building. So your guys at the back here are out of it.
Mm-hmm. You know what? That the thing is, though, I went for the close. I went for the hand-to-hand combat a lot, didn't I? Yeah. And it worked for me. Mm. Clearly that can backfire. As it happened, I had very little loss there, and you lost everything.
Yeah.
It could just as easily have gone the other way somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was going into Y9. You had 2 squads in Y9. Mm. I had to take chances to get into Y9, and I was lucky with it as well. You had pretty good shots against them.
Yep.
No, it was interesting.
All right. Okay. So let's do the last turn. I'm going to give you a 94.5% chance of winning this one.
Right. I think I'm going to win it as well. I have to say at this stage. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is when we can have an epic comeback.
It's not certain. Yeah.
All right. Here we go then. Turn 5. All right. So it started off well. You missed with your mortar.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
And then it didn't really get any better for the Germans. I did break a couple of squads.
You broke the leader of the 4, because I sent 4 groups at you, and one of them you sorted out. Mm. Yeah. But then advancing fire broke your squad, didn't it? Your leader was okay, and that was the end of the game.
Exactly. So we were just talking there about how it is a little bit of dicey scenario, isn't it? It's very much a case of the dice can swing, and especially because it's got one of those instant victory conditions. Where I was running squads around and stuff like that, any kind of sniper or anything like that is a potential to really break me completely.
Yeah.
So it's a scenario I think that you can't put too much weight onto. I don't think any of us played it particularly badly or wrong or anything like that. I just feel like it just comes down to a lot to the dice there, I think.
You did point out something that which I completely missed from the FSR about the berserkers, didn't you?
So we think that you can actually roll for that. There's an SSR that says that you can roll to make them berserk in any state, with the exception of melee. So I think that means that if they're broken, you can try and actually rally them back to the berserk. Now, as it happened, you didn't really have any broken squads that didn't come back. Anyway, there was only a half squad, I think, one turn. And we were also a little bit confused about whether, but we think you could have probably, as soon as you got into line of sight, you could have probably triggered the berserk at that point as well.
Yeah, and I was thinking it had to be at the beginning of each turn movement.
Yeah. So arguably that would have even been easier for you at that point.
I think you could be a lot rougher with these Australians than I was. You can, because the fact is, if they break, you can just simply just berserk them next turn.
That's right. That's right. The real key there was the smoke, wasn't it, from the mortar? I think that was the absolute the difference there, because it turned what was going to be a 16 down 2 shot or 16 down 3 shot into what was a 16 up 4 or up 5 shot. I think there was some shots like that, and I think had the smoke not arrived in the first turn.
And I always worry about a scenario like that a little bit because that made such a huge difference. I smoked both of your most important hexes. Just breaks up the game completely and allows the Australians to charge in and get into close combat with everybody. If I rolled an 8 my first smoke roll, that wouldn't have happened, and I'd have to work an awful lot harder.
Exactly. So it's a good example of how smoke can absolutely, like a lot of newer players forget the value of smoke, and in that example, it turned from what would have been an absolute suicide mission into a fairly easy attack, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't. I don't think you had any kind of breakage when you were adjacent to me in any of the Y6 or the Y8 buildings. You managed to get in there pretty much unscathed, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I lost a half squad getting to Y6, but that was all.
Okay, yeah.
But it could have been 10 times worse,
Yeah. So I think the point here of this is these scenarios are actually quite a nice, small. We played this in a couple of hours.
And that's a discussion, isn't it, and everything?
Yeah, exactly. And I think what was also nice about it from this perspective, this is a great scenario to be able to play half board, over the phone. I mean, this worked, I think, absolutely fine. I think the biggest problem we had was with Skype, to try and dial each other every now and again, which was we were struggling a bit. But other than that, it's perfectly playable, perfectly doable. And
I think all the scenarios from that pack are like that. They play in a couple of hours, including the counters out practically. If you really get on with it, they're just it's good and really not presenting any majorly complex rules. I mean, we had to check a few things about Berserk, didn't we? Because we were using Berserk so much more than normally. But other than that, we didn't really have to check up on any rules. And I think if you go through that pack, you might have to check up the mud rules. There's a couple of them that use slightly less common rules, but nothing dramatic, I don't think.
Right, exactly. And it's actually they're all. I think there's a few of them that are PTO as well. That kind of bring you a little bit of PTO for the Australians, and it does specialise on the Australians. So I'm sure most Australian players will know about this pack. So it's a very nice pack. So as I say, available on the archive, and I'm sure Murray has a website as well that you can take a look at. Break Contact. And that's it. So thank you for that game, Martin. That was well played.
Yeah.
You are pulling into quite an unassailable lead.
That one didn't feel particularly fair, I have to say. I think I had a little bit of luck in that one.
Oh, no, don't be silly. I've lost count, so I'm sure you can count up what we're on right now. But I think you're pulling away. We should mention that you've been a bit of a crime fighter this week. We shouldn't hide your powers.
I caught a guy in my garage who broken into my garage, and I chased him off. I only was really able to chase him off because my face was like covered in like fungus and people don't take their chances. I think normally it wouldn't have been quite such a happy ending. Maybe, I don't know.
We don't have the right to bear arms in this country, but you tackled it in the most British way possible.
I tackled it with my face.
You both ended up apologising to each other from the story you told me.
We did have a very polite conversation because he came up with a plausible excuse. And then I was, sorry, mate, I didn't realise. No problems. You know. And then he apologised to me very pointedly, and it was obvious that what he was actually doing was apologising because he'd already robbed some stuff from my garage because I didn't realise it wasn't properly secure. Because he was kind of, sorry, don't worry, I won't be back. And he explained why he was there. But I've been a real sleuth. I found the tool that he used to break in. I found a big muddy footprint, which the police came and photograph of it and everything. They took fingerprints, and I managed to find out that he had CCTV. I've got some photographs of him. Got all the times that he's come and gone because he's been more than once because he found his way of breaking into my garage. Pinched a few things. I mean, nothing's going to ruin my life, but. Nonetheless, I'd rather people didn't steal off me, really.
Yeah. He thought he was stealing off one of your kind of tenants of your garages.
He didn't think it was me. He thought it was one of the people who rents sheds off.
All a big misunderstanding. You've turned it into a Scooby-Doo episode.
So apparently he is a ne'er-do-well, apparently.
Allegedly.
Yeah, well known to the police. But I told him his name, I told the police where he lives and everything, and I know that they've been around to talk to him, but unfortunately we don't have enough evidence to prove that he stole anything. And prove he came on and off the property a few times, but he can tell the police whatever he wants, and they've got to prove otherwise, really. So he'll probably get away with it, but I've been quite impressed with my sleuthing skills.
You were very impressive, very good. So you had quite the week. So let's hope you have a quieter week.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the game. And I guess we should mention we're out of t-shirts, large size t-shirts now for Illuminating rounds. So if you are a large target or a extra large target, then feel free to get in touch and grab a t-shirt off us. And otherwise, if you want to be in on the draws, feel free to join the Patreons. We really appreciate that. We are getting close to our live game. So I think we are 1 month away from our live game, which obviously now we have a little bit of a problem with. But we're about a month away.
We'll just do that on Vascal, won't we?
Yeah, I think I'd like to do, if we can't do anything better, we might be able to do a kind of a Twitch style. I'd like to do Twitch and a board, have something a little bit more kind of tangible. But we'll talk about it when we're allowed to see each other again. It's like a bad Jane Austen novel. We're not allowed to touch each other. We're not allowed to see each other. It's so unfair.
Yeah.
Thank you for the game, and I guess we'll catch up again maybe a week after next, or maybe next week. We'll see how it goes. For everybody out there, stay safe and stay well.
We'll see you just as soon as we can.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. Okay, then, thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so here's our start of our giveaway for our Patreons. So I'm going to read out. We've got a dogfight outside again. All right, the dogs are getting excited around here. All right, so I'm going to read out the. Okay.
So we've got 2 ones.
All right, so if you re-roll those 2 again for us.
So it's the small white dice.
Which number was that? Do you remember the number?
No.
Wait a minute. Okay. Start again.
Okay.